I was talking to several women and they all got into the business the same way. They came up through the ranks. They started as a staff member, became a registered staff member, then the paraplanner, then the advisor. And they all said the same thing. They needed the encouragement to be told that they could be a successful advisor. They didn't see themselves going straight into the advisor role. And whether you're a woman, a person of color, you name it, everyone needs that opportunity to be told that I can see you doing this. And I think that's our job as leaders in this industry to help mentor that next generation.
Welcome to the Kick It Open podcast, where we bring you compelling stories from the wealth management industry and insights on achieving personal success. I'm your host, Shelby Nicholl. I'm joined today by my co-host, Iyanna Harris. Iyanna, welcome.
Thank you for having me again. I love it. I feel like I did a great job is why you had me back, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even our podcast editor, Aaron Sherman, he commented on just the amazing vibe you had. So I'm so glad that you are here.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me again. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So today we are thrilled to be joined by Becca Hajjar, Managing Principal and Chief Business Development Officer of Commonwealth Financial Network. Commonwealth is a national RIA with over 2,200 producing financial advisors. And Becca has had a really long and impactful career at Commonwealth and is one of those just women to watch inside of our industry. Does a lot to support women advisors, and we are just thrilled to have her today on the Kick It Open podcast. Welcome, Becca.
Thank you so much. I could not be more excited to be here with the two of you. I really appreciate this.
We're excited to have you too. So tell us, and we ask all of our guests this, tell us about your journey into wealth management. How did you land at Commonwealth? How did you land in wealth management? And what keeps you in this industry?
Yeah, so this might sound like I'm going really far back, but just to get you started, what I realized about 10 years ago was my favorite game as a child was Monopoly, and that should have been a sign. So fast forward, when I went to college, I went to St. Michael's College up in Vermont. And when I was going through all the different majors that I could sign up for, the only one for me that really made sense was business. And so I chose that. And at a young age, my dad got my brother and I into investing. And so I've always been interested in investing. And so from that point forward, right after college, I started working at a mutual fund company, like many people in financial services, answering phones and talking to shareholders. And what I did not realize at the time is becoming a financial planner was actually an option. My understanding of this business was you went to go be a stockbroker and sell someone a stock, and then you said goodbye. And I am very much a relationship person. So financial services is really where I found my home. And it's been a great career. So I started at Commonwealth after being at that mutual fund company for about 6.5 years, started here in 2000, and I started as a transition consultant. I helped advisors make the leap from whether it was another independent firm or a wirehouse, whatever it may be, over to Commonwealth. And through that time, I really learned how passionate I was about what we were doing at Commonwealth and how much I cared about growing this community in the right way. And I was fortunate to have the opportunity in 2006 to start wearing a recruiting hat. And fast forward to today, I feel very fortunate to say that I probably know 60 to 70% of our advisors, because not only have I been here so long, I have the opportunity to go to different conferences and really engage with everyone. And this is such a people business. And so getting to build those relationships has really filled my cup through the years. And I am now Chief Business Development Officer, one of the partners of the firm. That happened 2 years ago. Could not be more excited about being one of the leaders here. And again, helping not only our advisors and our community grow, but certainly the women in the home office staff and really everyone else.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We have a similar background in terms of working in transitions and also starting at a mutual fund company. I've always been curious about, Commonwealth in an in-depth kind of way. Can you share with us a little bit about the key facts, things that are important that people should know about Commonwealth?
Sure. First and foremost, we're privately held, which is becoming more and more of a differentiator in the world we live today. We have a senior leadership team of both partners and senior vice presidents that are really running the firm on a day-to-day basis and are also accessible. We have, you mentioned 2,200 active producing advisors. We do have that, as well as another probably 300 to 400 service support advisors in those offices. And we have about 1,200 in the home office supporting them. So a very strong ratio of support of our home office. What gets me really excited about the stats of Commonwealth, so to speak, are when we look at the productivity of our advisors. And Cerulli did a study a few years ago that shows that Commonwealth advisors grow 2.5% more each year than advisors at competitor firms. To me, we always talk about the intangibles and how do we make it tangible in what we do and the service that we provide. That to me is very, very much a differentiating data point, as well as that the average advisor at Commonwealth has close to 140 million in assets and is producing over a million in production. It's different. But what is the most important, in my opinion, is how we have been ranked number one in independent advisor satisfaction among investment firms 11 times in a row from JD Power. They've only done this survey 11 times, and that is beyond an honor because we know how long it takes to fill out those surveys to get that ranking.
Yeah, I was previously at a large independent wealth management firm, and I held a business development recruiting role. And I have to admit that, advisors spoke very highly of Commonwealth always. You have an exceptional reputation amongst advisors. And when I'd speak with them, they would say that the thing that they love the most about Commonwealth would be the culture, the personality, the people that they've interacted with. What are some of the tangible or intangible things that you think Commonwealth does differently than other firms in the industry? Why you have that ranking, why you earned it?
Yeah, I love that. So as I think about the beginning, Joe Deitch, our founder and chairman, when he started the firm back in 79, he said it was all about quality and community. And that is important to us, not only back then, but really all the way through. And that's exactly how we keep this culture going, right? We're focused on the quality of the advisors that we bring into Commonwealth. We're focused on the quality of the home office staff that we have to serve them. We absolutely know that every advisor has a choice of who they want to partner with, and we need to be indispensable to them, right? So if we're indispensable to them, then we know that they're going to choose to partner with us whether they need us or not. And then on the community side, which is always the fun part, it's not just the getting together and being social and doing the give backs, but it's allowing advisors an opportunity to really learn from each other. And what they learn from their peers is more powerful than what they can learn from us, although they tell us that they learn from us as well. And it's keeping that spirit of constant education, constant innovation, constant improving of what we're doing, of really being the best at what we do and helping them to be the best at what they do. When you have that mindset, I think that's what really creates the culture, right? We have really wonderful people that are here. And what one of my favorite stories, and I will be sharing this probably for years, I was at a conference this spring and I was talking to one of our female advisors, and she said to me, I love all of the newer advisors I've met here. And she's been with us about 15 years. And I said, that's great. Tell me why. And she said, because they're just like us. And I said, great. Tell me what you mean by that. And she said, they are client centric. And so to me, that is the epitome of who Commonwealth is, right? It's advisors who are absolutely client centric, who always want to be the best. And and I just think from a culture standpoint, that, the saying of rising tides lifts all ships, that's exactly what continues to make us better and builds this culture because everyone wants to help each other. There's study groups, there's regional meetings. There is a firm wide opportunity here where it's not only the giving backs and the study groups and the conferences that get people together, but actually, if we look at our offices, we have 40% of our teams have a family relationship, whether it's a child that's come into the business or a niece or a nephew or siblings or husbands and wives, you name it, there is a wonderful mixture of family that has come together. And that is another thing that just helps keep this quality and community strong.
That's such a surprising stat, right? We know there's a lot of family businesses in the wealth management industry, but to have 40% have a family connection just seems really high. Do you know if that is higher than other firms? I'm curious.
Great question. I don't
Just-
know. It's a
Yeah.
really great question. Probably something I should see if we can find out.
It's interesting. I mean, it is kind of a niche then, right? That you're set up to enable that next generation also, it sounds like.
Exactly. I mean, we really are focused on helping that next generation. If we look at our offices and we look at the advisors that are joining Commonwealth, half of those advisors this year are joining existing practices. That might be a next gen advisor, that could be an advisor looking for a succession plan, or that could be an advisor that's coming from a captive environment that just doesn't want to do this on their own. And we have plenty of advisors that are looking to grow. So I think about when I first started here and I was in transition, it was typically one advisor, one assistant that was joining us, and that was the norm. And now there's a mixture of, sure, the solo silo shops, but there's also large ensembles and enterprises that are joining us as well.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk a lot about, and we hear it come up so much in when we talk about Commonwealth, is the idea of culture. And we talk often, Iyanna and I and our colleagues talk about chemistry matches, personality matches. How do you think a an advisor can really uncover the kind of right personality or right culture fit for them?
I think it really starts in the recruiting process and it starts with building a relationship of trust. And that is not just for the partner firm they're looking to join, but if they're looking to join an existing firm, it even needs to be at the same level or almost even a deeper level because they're in the same office every single day. So they need to be thinking and asking themselves the questions about, are their philosophies of service aligned for their client? Do they do the same type of financial planning, right? Everyone doesn't have to do everything identical, but if you're joining an existing practice and you want to make sure that you're going to fit in with how they're doing things, you really need to learn what they're doing to make sure it's the right fit for you. And then if we look at joining a firm directly, right? Same type of thing. You need to make sure that they can offer the depth and breadth and service that you need to support your growth goals. I tell advisors all the time that we empower advisors to build the practice and the life that they want. So you give us your vision and we'll help you get there. And I think that alone is very empowering. And also if you look at, how those firms are supporting their advisors, what their advisor to home office staff ratio is, what their support is in that office if you're joining them, and look at not only what they tell you the culture is, you need to talk to their advisors and see what their experience is. If you don't talk to their advisors, how do you really know?
No, that's a great question. In my previous role, I spent a lot of time just listening to advisors because culture
Abs-
fit is more than just like about getting along. It's really actually understanding the needs, the values of the advisors that you're working with or partnering with, within a firm, within a wealth management firm. I think culture is about actually finding the value in one another and representing each other, right? We're living in a time where people want to be seen and heard and respected and they want to feel understood and they want a sense of community. So I'm so glad you used the word community because I think community and culture are interchangeable. No one wants a singular representation of themselves. They want to join a team. They want to walk into a room and see people who look like them and people who don't look like them, right? I think there's value in that. And I'm so glad to hear community is part of kind of a philosophy with Commonwealth. It's amazing.
I think
Absolutely. And that it's everyone can learn from each other.
Mhm. I think that it's important to be able to see people like you and also people who are different than you, maybe people that you can look up to as well. Sometimes, though, a culture can become a little bit maybe too staid or too steadfast. It can be, it could be too hard or it can be completely malleable and then sort of like lost over time. It can change too quickly. How has Commonwealth's culture adapted over the years, to ensure that it still retains its culture, but also that it changes with the times as well? How do you address that sort of balance?
So first of all, we've always been grounded on quality and community, right? And so I think where it starts, everything that we do, every decision that we make is how can we best serve our advisors? And so when that's the mindset, I do think that makes the big difference. And we listen. So Iyanna, you just talked about listening. I agree. We listen all of the time. We take feedback in. Not only do we have a tool on our website that they can send in feedback every day, but we verbally ask for feedback twice a year. And so we're listening to what their needs are. And then when we prioritize those needs, that's exactly how we build the next level of development of what we need, whether it's technology or services or whatever it may be. We want to make sure that we have those service and support that they need to serve their client. So as an example, how we've built out high net worth in the last few years, right? So many advisors have high net worth opportunities with their clients. But also from a culture standpoint, it's how do we feel connected? I think we all felt the disconnection through COVID. And when we came back from COVID, our community team formed a team called Advisor Engagement. And four of my partners are on the road doing fireside chats, bringing advisors together, usually about 12 or so of those a year. And then they're also on the road going and meeting in offices individually to hear how are things going? How can Commonwealth better serve you? What can we be doing differently? So it always goes back to listening and then providing the tools and resources that people are asking for. Wayne Bloom, our CEO, told this story many years ago, and it has stuck with me, and I share it all the time, which is we have basically however many advisors and staff members there are in total, right? By having this feedback tool, we have free consultants telling us how do we make our business better. It's really that simple, right? We talk about all the time here. What we're doing is not rocket science. It's common sense, it's serving, right? And it's providing.
Yeah, financial services does not have to be cold. It can be warm and personable. And I love the idea that people are going out to the teams and sitting with advisors and asking them their opinion. I think sometimes in the industry we forget that the advisor and their end clients are our clients. And so listening to them, making them feel heard is such a valuable tool. In my time in this industry, there have been partnerships or I've seen firms that don't work, right? So there are people who aren't a good fit or aren't a great match for the firm. How does Commonwealth avoid finding someone, that's a bad apple, if you will, that's not a fit for the firm? What do you do in that case?
So it's interesting. In the due diligence process, we tell prospective advisors all the time that while they're looking at us and doing due diligence, we're also looking at them. And that's not meant to mean that we are the country club that's hard to get into, but we want to make sure that we're bringing the right fit advisors into this community that will bring value into the community and that they will then also take value out of. Again, it goes back to building that relationship of trust, right? Right from the beginning and making sure that, the records are clear, compliance is clear, right? All of those things need to align for us to gain a comfort level. And I think about just all of the times where we have said no, and it's not a lot, but we've had those times where we've said no, and I've never regretted saying no. And so we talk about on the business development team all the time, it's just as important to get to a no as it is to get to a yes, right? And that's how we protect this culture in this community. Um, when you have advisors that are talking about how they can best serve their client, and you have a different advisor only asking questions about how much their money they're gonna make, I think that's a very tangible difference.
That's that's amazing. I think being selective is one of the reasons why you have the ranking that you have and the awards that you've received for the firm. I think it's important to kind of cultivate and curate the type of advisors you want to work with. Would you allow them to manage your money, right? At the end of the day, do I feel comfortable referring them to a friend of mine? I think that's really, really important in this business. There's a stat out there, and I don't want to get this wrong, that advisors spend, I think it's 80% of their time on non-revenue generating activities, right? Which is incredibly high. I think one of the things that's important as a partner or partnering with an advisor is giving them time back, right? And I think I've heard you say, a few weeks ago, a time merchant. And I have to say, I've used the term because it perfectly illustrates what we should be doing for our partners in this business is giving them time back. Can you talk about what managing or how managing time is crucial and how it helps advisors perform better for their clients?
Absolutely. So we have found through the years, and again, this goes back to day one with Joe, right? The more work that we can take off of an advisor's plate and put onto ours, or at least give them tools that make their practice more efficient, then they're going to have more time to most likely be in front of a new client. It could be that they want to have life balance and maybe they're going to coach their kids or they're, picking up their kids after school, whatever it may be, it's their choice. They're an independent financial advisor. But what we have learned through the years is that advisors are looking for ways to scale their practice. And so, a couple of examples that I think really have changed the game, and it's not really just for the advisors. I think it's really important to think about the time of their staff in their office. And so, several years ago, maybe 7 years ago now, we rolled out our master services agreement, which basically eliminates the need to get brand new account forms every single time you meet with a client. And that has created a great deal of efficiency for the staff of the advisor. If we look at the advisor side, one of the things that we've heard over the last few years in more depth than we had before was, hey, Commonwealth, I want you to do X, Y, and Z for me. So, as an example, our PPS Select, which is where our research team is running the money, and we've got about 75 different models for those advisors to choose from. They have said, we want more scale in our practice. And so, whether it is they decide to outsource all of the investment managed from their practice, or they decide to outsource maybe the clients that are 250,000 or less, whatever it may be, we have great options for them. And so, when we look at the data, just going back to that, we were Peter Esseley, who was presenting at our national conference a few weeks ago, was sharing with our advisors that for the advisors who have a minimum of 30 million in assets, for those who select to use the management of our PPS Select team, that they're actually growing 12% faster than other advisors. Again, that's a significant number. We do not require that advisors outsource, right? When you're an independent advisor, you choose if you want to be the one running the money, you certainly can. But if you don't want to be the one trading that money, we have another solution for that, custom trading services, where we can trade their models for them. So there's all different ways, whether it's virtual admin, if they need help on the admin side, virtual paraplanning, you name it, the PPS Select and the custom trading services, the MSA, you name it, in all facets of their business, we are looking for ways to give them scale and to help them create more efficiencies. And the best part of all of this is that that means they're going to have more time to help more clients. And we all know that there are many people in the United States that need help of a financial advisor. So it just gives them more time to do that.
That's great. I love the term of time merchants. Did you come up with that, Becca? Like, did you hear that
Now,
somewhere? Where'd that come from
so,
originally?
so I believe Andrew Daniels, one of my partners who I also worked for 21 and a half years, he was the one who came up with time merchants probably about 15 to 20 years ago. I've been hearing it since I started.
Well, we love it. So we're going to use it ourselves and
Excellent.
credit you guys.
Great.
Absolutely.
Andrew
It's a
Daniels gets credit for that one.
Oh, that's
game-changing phrase because we are trading time essentially, right? We spend time cultivating a relationship. They spend time cultivating relationships. We are trading time everywhere we go. So I love it. I will be using it daily.
when
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah.
it reminds me of
When,
that book. Oh, I'm sorry, Becca. Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, we can't add more hours to the day. There's still only 24, right?
Well, exactly. And that's, I was going to point to the book. There's a book about time being mortal, essentially. And I think it's called, what is it? 4,000 hours, 5,000 hours, I think is the book. But it's basically how many, or 5,000 weeks. What
That
was
was
the
great.
book, Iyanna? It was like 4,000 weeks
I think it's 4,000 weeks.
that Alana gave us, or she's mentioned it. I think that's where I
We'll
picked it up.
find it.
Anyway, well, there's this lovely book, Becca, out there about how little time we essentially have on this earth, right? It's not that much. And so we are limited on time. And it is important to be, sort of critical of how you're spending your time. And you can either spend that with your family and friends and living the life that you really want, or you can spend it doing the ops of the business or the marketing of the business, et cetera. One of the things I love about what you guys have done and what I'm seeing really across the industry as well is that we're enabling an advisor to do the work that he or she really loves to do and is best suited for. If I were an advisor and, I love doing what I'm doing, so I'm not an advisor. But if I were an advisor, I love doing marketing stuff. So I would want to be spending time there. I would not want to be running money, right? Like those are just how I'm wired. And so I love that we can, as an advisor, choose that. What are some of the most sort of popular kind of professional services, if you will, that Commonwealth is rolling out? And which ones, how did those come to be? Like, what is the sort of order that you've rolled those out and why?
Yeah. So one of the ones that I is probably the most highly used is our brand studio for marketing. And that is, from a branding standpoint. So you mentioned how much you love marketing, but it's helping people either create a new name because they've never had a name before and a brand and a website and so forth, or it's helping an existing firm totally rebrand, whether they're changing their name or they want a new website, and going through that entire process of what is important to them, what does their brand represent, how does it represent the services that they want to provide. It's a very cool process. I am not a marketing expert, so I've seen this process happen, and it's exciting. And I love seeing the reaction of our advisors. We had one advisor tell us a great story where she worked with Brand Studio to come up with a new brand for her company and website and do a whole redesign. And they came back to her after consulting for a while and said, "Okay, we have a couple of different options for you for the colors of your website." And they came back with a very bright yellow. And she was just like, "I can't have that. Like, what do you mean?" And lo and behold, she finally made the bold decision to go with it. And fast forward, she found out that she actually gained a new client because they were attracted to the website and the color of the website. Who would have
And
thought, right? So it's helping you get out of your comfort zone, but also it's, hey, you are the expert at being the financial advisor. Our advisor marketing team is the expert at helping you build your brand. Trust the experts. And that's the same thing as I was talking about the virtual paraplanning and the virtual admin services, as well as our virtual transition support. Those are areas that have grown incredibly in the last couple of years. Virtual admin was the first one. And that has not only been great where advisors can hire a virtual admin for 8 hours, 16 hours, 24, but we all know how difficult a transition process is, right? And we already provide a two primary contacts for each transition, a transition consultant and an operations specialist, but also having a team from the virtual transition team helping them with the actual move, not just giving them the guidance and the teaching and so forth. That has been a really powerful support that we've added into our transition process. And it's become invaluable for the advisors making the leap.
that's great. Do you see any hesitation by advisors to adopt some of these new services? To use somebody that is virtual paraplanning, for example. Do they hesitate at all?
So, they do hesitate, but I think that also comes with your mindset, right? So for the advisors that have said, I mean, we started this because our advisors were asking us for it. So it ends up becoming one of those things where someone tries it and they're like, "Oh my God, this is better than I thought it was going to be." Right. And that word continues to spread and the momentum, it's the snowball effect and how all of these things grow. And I just think it's a matter of trust. And we have a wonderful trusting relationship with our advisors. Having said that, many practices have a paraplanning role in their office. And so because of that, that is an opportunity for someone to grow into whether it's they start as a staff member, become a registered staff member, become a paraplanner, and then become an advisor. It really depends upon how you want that service to play a role in your practice. If you think about, again, we go back to that time merchant, how many hours in the day, and then also how many people in your practice you have to serve your clients, that's where you can figure out where you can gain those efficiencies and if outsourcing is right for you.
Your enthusiasm about our business is contagious. Like I'm excited to talk to you. Like and podcasts that we did previously, we're engaging some phenomenal, powerful, joy-filled women. Like and the representation that you guys are bringing to this industry, it's phenomenal. Like I'm smiling on the inside and the outside. I'm so glad you talked about career changing within the industry and how having a role in transition for one, right? Or answering phones, it could be a precursor for growth in this industry. We are all like obsessed with this industry. I love it. Shelby loves it. I can tell you love it. Live, breathe it. We're stewards of this business. How do we get more women like us, more people of color in this industry? How do we get people to pursue this career path? Because I know I'm biased, but I don't think there's any better industry to be in than financial services on any level. So how do we attract more talent?
I am beyond excited about the future of this business. And if you think I'm excited about Commonwealth, now you're going to really see me light up even more as I talk about next generation. And the reason why I'm excited is because I do believe that women are built for this business. Women are built with empathy, and it doesn't mean that men are not, but just historically, what we've seen, right? Women are built with more empathy. We hear that women are going to control the wealth of the world by 2030. And the way I see this industry and the role of a financial advisor or financial planner, whether it's a woman, a more diverse candidate, you name it, right? Anyone who wants to get into this business, it is totally about building relationships and making sure that they trust you. And you don't have to be the expert at running the money, right? We now know that there are so many outsourcing options that are strong. You don't have to be the expert. You probably want to be the expert in financial planning. And what I love is we're seeing all of these different universities have these great CFP programs. As a matter of fact, we have 6 universities that come to our national conference every year with students, and they're getting exposure that way. But I will tell you, I think we have to, as an industry, start sooner, right? Women do need encouragement as a whole, right? And I have talked to at our national conference a few weeks ago, I was talking to several women at our Women of Commonwealth reception, and they all got into the business the same way. They came up through the ranks. They started as a staff member, became a registered staff member, then the paraplanner, then the advisor, and they all said the same thing. And we've heard this before. They needed the encouragement to be told that they could be a successful advisor. They didn't see themselves going straight into the advisor role. And whether you're, a woman, a person of color, you name it, everyone needs that opportunity to be told that I can see you doing this. And I think that's our job as leaders in this industry to help mentor that next generation. I think it's critically important that we make sure that there is opportunity, and it's almost like the word, we just have to keep spreading the word individually, but then collectively as the industry. And I think the industry has gone in the right direction. One of the conferences that we've been a part of the last, I think, 5 years now or 4 years now is Quad A. And we're going to that each year to make sure that we're present to add more diversity into Commonwealth. I think that's an important piece too. And finding other outlets where we can, whether it's the HBCUs, whether it is other planning programs around the country. And what I also love is many of our advisors go out and do classes and do financial literacy training, whether it's through junior achievement or at their school, whatever it may be, to help bring awareness about this industry and about this role.
I think it's so important that we continue to beat that drum of awareness and also of telling women that they can step into these roles. We've been lucky on the podcast to have a couple of really just great guests recently. One of them was Lauren Oshman, who is CEO of Vestia Advisors. And she talked about how she got comfortable moving from sort of the number 2 role in her firm to the CEO of Vestia. And, Vestia is now, I think, around 750, $800 million in assets. Like, they've had just incredible growth. But her 7-year-old daughter will be like, yep, my mom's the CEO. And she's like, I had to get comfortable saying that about myself. Right. And it
Yeah.
feels the same way for many of these women advisors. I had to get comfortable that I could be the advisor. Right. An advisor means I have expertise and I have a viewpoint and I have a perspective that is valued by others. And that feels maybe sometimes a little bit like too much in whatever way for some women. And so it's just getting that confidence. Like, let's boost that confidence so we feel comfortable taking that title on.
And I think we're doing that too, in maybe in a smaller way. So at our women summit that we do each year, we have an opportunity for advisors to bring a young woman or another woman who, because it could be a career change, into that environment. And we had someone come 2 years ago, and she is turning into an advisor this year. And I think that's exactly it, right? That sponsorship. And I'm really excited that now, if I look at who's joined us in 2024, that 25% of the advisors that have joined us are women. So we're seeing the trend line tick up, right? If we look at registered staff members to advisors, that is in the 30% range. So we're going in the right direction. It's still small, but we're going in the right direction.
I daydream a lot about what to do or how to help advisors who are nearing the end of their career, seasoned advisors. And this is going to nerd out for a minute, but giving them the opportunity, because a lot of them don't want to retire because they don't know what to do with themselves on a daily basis. But
Right.
if they worked with women or just younger people who are looking at a second career and they really took the time to coach and mentor and share the knowledge that they have, they provide that they were giving so much value to the next gen or the person who's doing this as a second career. Yes, sell your practice to someone. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the person you sell your practice to, but spend time sharing all the knowledge and everything that you've gained over the years with someone else. It's an invaluable tool. And I think they'd be less hesitant to retire if they knew that they still had value in the industry, right? If they still were providing value to someone who was nervous about taking on this next step and changing their career. I dream about it all the time, getting them comfortable
I
with
love that.
passing the torch.
I
Yeah,
think you're
thank you.
spot on.
Yeah.
I do think there's a lot of discomfort with passing the torch, right? We do see, just a worry about handing the clients, and part of it is the relationships that they've built over decades, right? It's really hard to hand that off. These are people that you care about. I love in the independent market that you don't have to just say goodbye. You can sort of wind down your practice and continue to remain involved in a different way than what you can and what I had seen at prior firms. So I love that part of it. But I think you're right, Iyanna. Like there's so much knowledge. Like let's create a world where the passing it on is also expected but rewarded in some ways, not necessarily monetarily, but maybe we need some awards for, the torch passer, and the best mentors out there.
No, it's exciting, and then they would find that they're still using their mind, using the tools, like, it would give them, I think, more joy than they think, and so we should promote that everywhere we can, like, succession and retirement doesn't have to be the end. It could be the beginning of
Yes.
something new and exciting, so
Yes. It
just
reminds
my
me
2
of this
cents.
show that I am sort of obsessed with, and we watch it and we binge it every time it comes out, is The Lincoln Lawyer. I know this is on Netflix. But in there is a character that is the retired, in the nursing facility lawyer that is like the mentor to the main character. And he goes and asks legal, is what they call the older gentleman. He goes and asks legal for his advice all the time on the cases. And it's a really nice dynamic to see that sharing. So just another little thing it makes me think of.
I
Um,
love that. We actually have a lot of advisors that do that. They're as they slowly because so many teams are now set up with the senior leader, the next leader, and then the associate advisor. And so that is organically happening over time. And we actually have some programs in place, like an associate senior mentoring program that we do here helps that. But but advisors do have the ability, as you said, Shelby, in the independent space to take more time to decide, right, when that last day is that they're gonna actually retire, and they do get to share that knowledge. It's incredible.
It is. Going on the opposite end of that career lifespan, I've heard a video with you recently, Becca, where you said we needed to reach into high schools. Talk a little bit about your thoughts on high schools and how we can continue to bring up that next generation and make this maybe a career of destination.
Absolutely. I feel like, we all in this industry have a responsibility to go back to our high schools and talk to them about this industry, about the role of a financial planner, a financial advisor, and really help them understand. And what I've done that with my high school and what I say is if you love people and you want to help take care of people, everyone might always think that you need to go become a doctor. Well, this is becoming a doctor in a different way, right? You're the doctor of their finances and you are helping them save for critical things in their life, whether it's their retirement, putting their kids through college. I mean, we all know what those things are, right? But it's their life goals and helping them be on a plan. Then you really should consider this as a career path, especially with the flexibility. And we all know that when you get to college, they expect you to pick a major. And okay, well, if you're going to pick a major, but you don't know this exists, how are you going to choose to go down this path? And so that's why I think the earlier we can get the message out there, the better. And we talked earlier, you were talking about career changers earlier. I agree. I think this is a great second career. I have talked to many women who are coming out of being, stay at home mom or even dads, stay at home dads. What are they going to do? And I have had so many people say to me, well, I don't have any skills. I said, are you kidding me? Like, think about what you have been managing in your home. And keep in mind, I do not have any children. So it's not like I've experienced this myself, but what I've observed is how they handle so much. I mean, I joke that I actually got my work ethic from my mom. And so that woman still does not stop, right? She just keeps going. And I think it's critically important that we say, okay, this is an incredible skill set. And now how do we translate this into, because they have been taking care of their children. Now this is shifting to taking care of clients. And again, it's we have to tell them they're capable and this is an option. And I've actually been talking to someone recently about that. And so it's fun. Like it's fun to encourage people to pursue something that they didn't even know existed.
As I'm listening to you speak, I'm starting to think of financial advisors. They should be categorized as first responders, right? And I think
Oh, nice.
if we shift the way that we look at the role of the financial advisor, if there's tragedy, people go to their financial advisor first. If there's a kid wants to go to college, people go to their financial advisor first. The financial advisor really is a first responder. So if we it's a business professional role, but if we change the dynamics of how people see the role, I think we can get more people engaged. They are really life agents. They make a difference. And watching, throughout my career, advisors, when I started on the phones, taking their calls, watching them grow their practice, I always think about how many families they impact and how many lives they've changed by just being the first to respond. This is a tremendous industry, and I think people just need to see it a little bit differently. Just a shift in how we describe what they do on a daily basis. It's not all about the numbers. It's more about the relationship and how they make people feel, the comfort and the safety that they bring to people. I think that would be a shift for our industry if people just saw us as first responders more than anything else.
I love that. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to borrow that.
Absolutely. You gave me so much already. So no, this has been a great conversation. I think about my entry into the industry, and I shared with Shelby. My mother worked at a mutual fund company, and it was right across the street from my high school. And so after school, I would walk up to the office to wait for her so that she could take me home, or I could ride home with her and not have to take the bus. And I would sit in the lobby and read prospectuses. And it was the most dull information, but clients would come in and sit with me and talk to me about, meeting with advisors in the office and explaining to me what a mutual fund was. And I I was excited by it. I loved from then what we do, right? So there is an opportunity for everyone in this space if they're just shown, right? If you just get the opportunity to see it. So
I love that because, it's funny, we went back at the beginning. I talked about how Monopoly, right, was my favorite game, but my dad was a dentist and my mom would fill in at the front desk when, the receptionist wasn't able to come in. I saw that level of service that happened at the front desk, right? And how the care made a difference. My dad was a great dentist. I'll give him all that credit. But the front desk between my mom and the woman, Rosemary, that was there all the time, like they kept that culture going, right? And so to me, when I think about it, right, my dad was a small business owner. So are all the advisors, in the independent space. They start as small business owners, but then they grow. And then it's their choice how they want to grow.
I think this has been a lovely conversation, and I have loved these personal stories at the end. I want to change gears just a moment. And I am personally a really big fan of that Vogue 73 questions thing where they do it all in one shot and take the videos. Obviously, we don't have time for 73 questions. We won't do that to you, Becca. But I do have five kind of quick fire questions, just looking for quick hit answers. And this will kind of wrap us up for today.
Sounds great.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. So I know that you are a very big sports fan. What is your favorite thing about seeing a game in person?
The energy.
What is something that you learned later in life that you wish you'd known earlier in life?
I heard this great quote the other day. Confidence matters just as much as competence and credibility.
Ooh, that's good. What is your favorite app on your phone right now?
Libby.
Oh, I love that one. I'm a huge book nerd as well. So, what's one thing that you've always wanted to learn, but you haven't had the chance to yet?
I don't know if I'll ever get the chance, but I'd love to learn how to play the drums.
Oh.
Oh my god, that's mine too. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, nice.
And then what's one quality that sets successful advisors apart from others?
To me, it's how much they care. It really is. And
Yeah.
that just works perfectly with Commonwealth because I believe we care more.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you, Becca, so much for joining us today. In the show notes, we'll put some references into Commonwealth and the Commonwealth website, etc. If you're interested in speaking with Becca's team, we'll also provide that email as well. Or, of course, you can call us. But thank you. Iyanna, thank you so much. Becca, thank you for being here today.
Thank you
Yes,
both.
thank you
This
so
was
much.
wonderful.
Thanks for listening to the Kick It Open podcast. The Kick It Open podcast is hosted and developed by Muriel Network in partnership with Catalyst. Learn more at startwithcatalyst.com. Kick It Open is produced by Shelby Nicholl, edited by Aaron Sherman, marketing by Sabrina Portnoy, graphic design by John Gallagher. If you found today's podcast valuable, please help us out by subscribing and sharing with your friends. Just click that little plus sign or the follow button wherever you get your podcasts.